Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mike Henry. How are you all? Welcome to LitFest 17. Yes. And if the 2 years of the pandemic wasn't challenging enough, finding this place was another steep hill to climb, and you all made it. Congratulations, you've survived. It's so great to see you here. It's so great to be in person after 2 freaking years of Zoom. Goodness gracious. So I'm really excited to introduce tonight's happy hour reading. But before I do so, I have a couple of quick announcements. Hello to everybody online. Hello, hello, hello. If you are watching online, you're not on camera or on microphone, so you can yell at your dog or your kids if you need to. But if you have a question, please, are we doing a Q&A? Yes, all right, Q&A, exciting. You can submit your questions if you're online via the Q&A function. That's fairly self-explanatory, but it bears repeating. You'll find links to all of our upcoming happy hour readings in the chat bar for those of you online, as well as links to tonight's Colorado Matters taping, which is called Turn the Page with Erica Krause. That kicks off at 5:30 p.m., and that event is free, and that will be directly followed by the LitFest. In the chat bar for those of you online, as well as links to tonight's Colorado Matters taping, which is called Turn the Page with Eric. So you all heard that it's not just the LSD kicking in? You all heard that? Okay, just want to make sure. I guess there's a delay in case I swear or slap someone. I'm going to stop now. Please stay for the Colorado Matters session after this, and for the kickoff party, which is catered. I forget what the food is. I heard it's really good, though. Cuba. Awesome. Wonderful. So please, make yourself at home. Check out the lovely bookstore by Matter. Grab a refreshment in the back, and enjoy the reading. This is going to be absolutely amazing. A couple of other things. If you're looking for classes and workshops with spaces still left, things are selling out very, very quickly. Please see the info booth, which is just outside against that wall back there, or in the link if you're online, the link in the chat for our cheat sheet. I also have to thank the Scientific and Cultural Facilities District, the SCFD, the National Endowment for the Arts, and Colorado Creative Industries for helping to make LitFest 2022 possible. In addition, I really need to thank York Street Yards, which is this whole complex here, for the generous use of this amazing space. And a special thank you to our bookshop Matter, our official book-selling partner this year. I want to thank all the staff. Any staff here? Torin is over there. Give Torin, yeah, give all the staff just a, yes, amazing. This book is absolutely gorgeous and incredible. I've had most of these amazing poets in my workshops, and they always kept me on my toes. They're incredibly brilliant, rigorous, creative, always free with suggestions and feedback, and I always appreciate that. So it's an honor to introduce you all. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for being such talented poets. And I'm just going to turn it over to Kirsten Morgan. Thank you.
Welcome. Over the years, those of us who take regular workshops, poetry workshops at Lighthouse, have noticed that the majority of the participants are not only women, but women of a certain age. And if ever you've been in one and looked around and paid attention, you have noticed this phenomenon. So this is a group that's shall we say, somewhat unseen, but they're very active and very widely published. We just go about doing our thing without worrying about any of that. 3 of us from this workshop group decided to get together and bring these poets' beautiful work to fruition in a collection. So we put the word out, and 20 people responded. That makes 23 of us who have contributed to this book. And it was easy to find the topic. aging. So it's a thing that is so interesting and complex and just kind of fascinating, I think, to go through this time of life and to be able to gather it into poetic words is sort of the essence of poetry, which is the art and craft of saying that which can't be said in as few words as possible. A definition I just made up on the spot, and it doesn't really mean anything. But anyway, it has worked for us, and this is the result. So thank you so much for coming, and my other two colleagues will speak to you briefly.
Hi, I'm Ginny Hoyle. Can you hear me? Okay, very good. I want to take a minute to introduce our creative partner, Judy Anderson, who is right there. Judy designed every detail of this book and guided us through the publication process. She is a fearless artist who loves language, books, and ideas. She founded Platform in 2002 and served as its executive director for 14 years. This nationally recognized arts nonprofit has enriched the lives of hundreds of Denver teens. Mike Henry did a residency there, Jake Adam York did one, and perhaps some others too. She taught at the University of Denver and then the University of Washington in Seattle before returning to Denver. Her keen eye has produced dozens of free-form artist books that are widely exhibited. Her work can be found, Judy, don't get embarrassed, in collections in more than a dozen prominent museums, including the Museum of Modern Art and the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, the Victoria and Albert Museum in London, the Walker Art Center in Minneapolis, and the Getty Museum in Los Angeles. So, thank you.
Hi. Most of us up here have had the pleasure of Elizabeth Robinson, a Lighthouse teacher, as our teacher and mentor. Elizabeth urged us, as her students, to do two things. Well, of course, write, so three things. But first, to create and be an active part of a community within which to study and write and critique poetry. So this anthology represents one act in service to that community. Second, Elizabeth urged us to honor our work by exercising agency and initiative in getting our work out into the world. So of course we send work to literary journals and magazines. But for this volume, we chose instead to publish this collection under our own imprint. This enabled us to create, with Judy, a volume that is consistent with how we wanted it to look and read and feel. So we are Ink Sisters Press. Thank you. Oh, and by the way, we do have a stack of books back there for sale. So, with that as an intro to our time together, let's read some poems. I am very proud to introduce one of the collaborators in this volume, a fine poet and a dear friend, Ginny Hoyle. Ginny grew up in New Jersey, 4 minutes from the Fairhaven dock, 8 if barefoot. She was one of those kids who loved nature and books. In Denver, she carved out a career as a freelance writer. Ginny has collaborated with Judy Anderson for 35 years. She started when she was 10, pouring poetry into artist books exhibited across the country. She taught haiku at the Academy for Lifelong Learning for 10 years, a group which and she now belongs to a study group, the Haiku Workshop, and that group just published a marvelous haiku collection that you should check out. Her poems have appeared in the Baltimore Review, Copper Nickel, Pilgrimage, and elsewhere, thanks to workshops at Lighthouse Writers Workshop. Ginny.
Thank you. Okay, once again, mic adjustment. All right. Can you hear me all the way back? All right. This poem is called Truce. Today, I meet the meadow halfway. It is holding still, the way an animal, surprised, hides in plain view. Once, I might have chased it, seized it, worried it the way a dog wants to make a rag doll of a downed bird. Once, I might have tried to take it apart, my toolkit stocked with weapons of mass distraction. Then I was a match in a beetle-felled forest, a tractor that chewed up arid land. Now I let the meadow come to me. From a tall rail fence, I watch 5 gray horses graze the green gold hour, turning sweet grass into muscle and bone. If I hold still enough, long enough, maybe I will see how the thing is done. And I would now thrilled to introduce Sue Bickard, who studied poetry at the University of Colorado, Denver University, and Lighthouse Writers. Her goal is to be the Johnny Appleseed of poetry, sharing her love of poetry with others in hopes that they might also come to enjoy it. She has published poems in several local journals, and a book of her poems, Three-Toed Poems, was published in 2017, and it is a gem. Here is Sue.
Thank you, Jenny. Can you hear me? I'm going to read I Am the Child Grown Old. I am the child grown old, walking along the gravel path that circles the park. I am the dust kicked up by all the boots that have walked this path and will walk this path. I am the young mother jogging with the stroller, a golden retriever leashed to the handle. I am the rollerblader, the skateboarder, the biker. I am the girl skating on the frozen lake, dancing with the old man in the wool cap. Look, he has set his radio down on the ice, and now we are all waltzing. I am the one with life all around me. I am the soccer player, the volleyball player, the whoops and hollers of winning plays, the sunbathers splayed out on blankets, the couples in the grass reading to one another. I am the proud geese parading their goslings round and round the silver pond. We are one with the sun as it drops slowly from the sky. As the lights begin to fade, the revelers pack up their games, fold their blankets, and close their books. The geese disappear into the reeds. The playground empties. One swing still twists and turns in the air. Its chain snaps as though someone suddenly leapt off. Here in the dusk, among the pine and the linden, I am the one who stands on the gravel path. I am the child who set the swing in motion. It is my pleasure to introduce Joy Sawyer. Joy is a longtime instructor at Denver's Lighthouse Writers Workshop. I've taken her class at least twice. Her peripatetic past life includes stints as a stage musician, phone solicitor, television producer, NYC inner city youth minister, and private practice therapist. Joy's authored several nonfiction books as well as 2 poetry collections, Tongues of Men and Angels, the White Violet Press, and Lifeguards, Conundrum Press. She's currently at work on a screenplay best described as a hybrid of Lars and the Real Girl and Dazed and Confused. Small-town church folks encounter the rich inner lives of high school stoners. Joy.
Thank you, Sue. This poem is from my collection, Lifeguards. It's called When You Leave Us. When you move wordlessly from one life to another, you bring all who ever declared our love with our hearts, with our mouths. We each see a new maple, a bush on fire, a tiny sparrow perched on a flat rock. Though you've made your entrance into a new home, our old homes are filled with the things you loved. You live on mantels, in journals, on recipe cards smudged with sugar cookie dough. Is nothing nearer than love itself? Even when this life carefully tucks you in, closes your bedroom window, whispers its soft goodnight. When midnight falls, we are certain you hear our voices, low and full on brick patios, ice cubes swirling in our paper cups. If we listen carefully, underneath the crickets and the murmur of twilight, we will hear you breathing, as steady as this slow dance that begins among us, underneath patient stars. So it is my pleasure to introduce Harriet Stratton, who is much too modest. One thing I want to tell you about Harriet is she is an expert birder. And one of the things I'm most excited about this year is she promised to take me birding here during a break. So I'm very excited about that, Harriet. So it's only 100 miles from the Colorado Prairie Ranch, where Harriet was born, to the higher elevations of the Rockies Front Range, where she lives today. But the journey has taken over 70 years. Of course, that includes a lot of stops to admire vistas, inquire of minutia, try to make sense of it all along the way. Harriet.
Thank you, Joy. What do you want to see? What's your target? Bird. The anchor. From the plane's window seat, I see all 10,000 acres of the family ranch. A winged shadow skims the treeless plain, the gravel road that used to take me home. At pasture level, a whirl of switchgrass, animal flattened, invites me to lie down. On a clean sheet of prairie sand, I rest my head, press an ear to the ground. Listen to buffalo grass curl, big blue stem flag above deep drops of root, anchor against rolling blows of wind. I can hear the grass grow, rootlets pulse and dig. Sands creep, reach an angle of repose, avalanche, grain by grain, downwind. In this holy present, sandhills hiss, uneasy soliloquies of incessant shift. In past tense, these sandhills whisper nouns and names of those I have loved. A whoosh of air sweeps me up, as if it were time itself, assigned to erase my imprint from the land. My great pleasure to introduce my friend Kirsten Morgan, one of the compilers of this anthology. She grew up in a house on a tiny island in the middle of the prairie, a life launch both geographically anomalous and metaphorically significant. Nice job on multisyllabic. Nice job. She's taught the craft of poetry for many years to children in private school, homeless women in a day shelter, and elders in a lifelong learning program. A finalist for the Birdie Prize from Meadowlark Press, her publications include Gyroscope Review, Human Touch Journal, Global Poemic, Three Elements Review, and Twickenham Notes. She's the editor of One Day, One Night at a Time, Women Write of Poverty, Homelessness, and Hope, and the author of a beautiful book called Without Skipping a Beat, A Child's Heart Transplant Journey. Looking forward, Kirsten.
And I am going to read The Seduction of Sabi. We of loose summer days and loose summer nights, who newly loved Scotch, caroused until dawn, found lately the power of skin to hold or give, and knew for certain what others had never guessed. You remember us, don't you? We owned the earth and deserved the best, endless fortune our birthright. Well, we grew up and then grew old, and now we smile in sympathy at those who can't separate the sidewalk from the city, who search for their faces in storefront windows, renounce the flaws in their unlucky bodies, yearn for perfection, ever beyond reach, and still believe there's more out there if only they could sniff the wind to find direction. We smile because we know they too will grow loose of skin and loose of habit, become wildly grateful for days with only breath and sun and trusted friends as fortune. With luck, they will embrace the shabby silk of years, Sabi, nested in their grit of gray and wail of wrinkles. And I get to introduce my friend Shirley Sullivan, who lied in her biography. Because it says, Shirley is woefully devoid of humor. That's not true. She has pursued it through hailstorms on horseback, haunted dreamscapes, and most deeply as an opera diva. These days you may find her languishing, waiting for it to arrive. That's humor. Fine praise for January. Her book of poems was published recently by Book Bar Press.
thanks Kirsten for adapting the biography. But humor is so hard to find, and I want it in my writing, especially. So this poem is from Find Praise for January, which is available from Book Bar Press. Please patronize the Book Bar. And it's called Preparing to Lead on the Way of Imagination. I tell her I feel pregnant, which is a joke in the 8th decade, actually 9th now. Laughter is better than wine these days. But of course, I'm thinking what this means, as if the meaning of things needs to be parsed and pushed through rubriced brilliance. It's having to write down a structure that stops me. The ideas inside are taking away my breath and making me want to cry. Too much richness, like eating one of Addie's coffee carrot cakes in one sitting, bittersweet and crunchy with roasted beans, and more effective against sleep than pills. Structure's wrong, too rigid, not fluid, as if the river could stop at the turn and all the water debris pile up behind it. New Rilke translations, quotes from silence, and Arkin's ideas for movement, tangled up in muck and reeds, rusted transmissions, and chicken wire. I am sick with too much unexpressed love. My feet ache and want to be bathed in warm oil. My knee's sharp pain can't bear much more weight, and it's difficult to wear the big belly proudly at 73. Still, I've been through delivery before. What comes is miraculous. Even in an overpopulous world, I imagine sitting in the circle, bringing questions out of the quotes, taming words, using them to flare minds to flame. But all I can think of is the end and the moment of birth. Thank you. And I am just thrilled to introduce Susan Freiberg, my dear friend. She was born in Spirit Lake, a resort town in northern Iowa near the Minnesota border. She still hopes to someday write about such a poetic-sounding place. She's been a member of the Poetry Collective at Lighthouse Writers, was honored to be a recipient of Nimrod Journal's 2018 Francine Ringgold Award for New Writers in Poetry, and a finalist for the Inverted Syntax Sublingua Prize for Poetry. Please welcome Susan.
Am I not that body? The overworn dress, slip strap fallen, a string of pearls clattered, across a floor, a scuffed shoe, a disturb of tangled hair. Am I not that body struggling to stand, hip deep in the river, water coursing between her legs? Or that body stained and writ and drawn, like a well-thumbed, illuminated manuscript? Or that transparent body lifted from a smoldering wagon? What are an old body's dreams for anyway, if not to re-seam memory, if not to trick the dark? Thank you. And it's my pleasure to introduce Anna Dunlap. Anna unwittingly followed Rilke's advice to wait and gather sense and sweetness for a whole lifetime before attempting to write 10 good lines of poetry. Out of necessity and inclination, she spent decades as the family breadwinner, far afield from poetry. During her career, she counseled developmentally disabled adults, served as an education policy advisor to a state governor, and led communications at several companies. Now free to go at her own pace, she's inching toward 10 good lines while taking time for friendship, family, traveling, and volunteering for causes dear to her heart. Her poems have been published by Colorado Sun, Poet Magazine, Spectrum Publishing, Golden Foothills Press, Moonstone Art Center, and of course, Ink Sisters. Anna Dunlap.
So good to see all of you here. You can unmute if you'd like. Yes, that was a Zoom joke, yeah. Thank you, Connie, and thank you, Jenny, and thank you, Kirsten, for making this anthology happen in the middle of a pandemic. That's pretty amazing. This is my first poetry reading ever. And it took these brainy and experienced women and fine poets to get me to do something like this, but anyway, let's give it a go. Love in the time of dementia. Here we go. In an exam room lit for interrogation, a neurologist keeps score as you struggle to recite the months of the year backwards, count down from 20 to 1, recollect the names of common things, collar, button, elephant, train. Even with shattered neurons, you know the stakes, if not the answers. Understand the line between living and assisted living. Defeat comes in under 15 minutes. With clinical precision, the doctor reports your mistakes and misfires, crushes you like a cigarette butt. In the hallway after, you hug me so hard, your hearing aids squeal, SOS, as if to signal a new kind of coupling, more animal than human, raw as roadkill quivering. Thank you. It is my great pleasure to introduce Connie Zumpf, without whom I would never have published a single piece of poetry. She is educated as a developmental psychologist, and she took up poetry, which seemed to her a reasonable way through the maze of human experience. I thought that was a good call, yeah. Her work was shortlisted for Concrete Wolf Press's Lewis Award and has appeared in various literary publications, including New Ohio Review, Christian Century, North American Review, I-70 Review, and Pilgrimage. Her chapbook, Under This Sun, was published in March 2020, just as the global pandemic erupted. And as an aside, she said she's now working on her latest manuscript, something like Ultimate Guide to Timing Your Book's Release. Connie leaves poems on airplane seats, at bus stops, on park benches. That flap of paper on the grass, it might be a poem tugging at your sleeve. Connie.
Thank you, Anna. Regardless of our age, young or old, we've probably all found ourselves in a situation of encountering a scene that leaves us speechless, but hopefully never wordless. We too. Am I supposed to stare or look away? I see his hands plunged everywhere, the eager curve of her neck. They're on the corner by the Chick-fil-A, all wet clutch and grind, oblivious that the light has changed as they twine around and bend each other like young birches, almost to the ground, as if there is no end to lust. I can't begrudge. Yes, I remember the relish and sport of public skin to skin, shows of hard body, friction, scorch. But now I leave such firestorms to youth. Instead, give me the easy heat of this ripe and certain age, and my lion-headed oak of a man who does not sway with my torments, yet ripples when he laughs. Give me the seasoned cheek of wrinkle, fitted fine to wrinkle, the grizzle hair belly pillow, salted wallow of a morning. Ha! We are beyond spectacle as destination. And we too love. In our closed circle, a private rumpled realm, passwords burned into our skin, we too polish our bones against tomorrow's dark until we gleam. Thank you. I'm so happy to introduce Dee Casalena. Dee loves the sound of language organized in lines and delights in the world of wordcraft. Her journalism degree is underemployed, but she's kept her hands in poetry since her first class at Lighthouse Writers' Workshop in 2002. That's 20 years. Do you know that? She lives in Arvada with her husband, one of their 2 adult sons, and 3 elderly pets. I give you Dee.
Thank you, Connie. I still have 3 elderly pets. I just want you all to know. I'm going to read a poem called Q and Aging. Why seize the day? It won't surrender to your embrace. Caress this hour like a lover whose touch you still crave after 40 years. Why torture the past? It will never confess what you wish to hear. Like a friend, listen to those sad but true tales. With your older self's perspective, revise. Why pillage the present to placate the future? What captured you in childhood, raised you like one of its own? You learn to live a new way. Learn again. Thank you. And I am very pleased to introduce Gail Ben Ezra. And before I read what I have here, I just want you to know that before Gail started writing poetry, she was a very accomplished visual artist. So here is Gail. Walk through the blue gate, gardens, splashing water, a rainbow assemblage of Adirondack chairs. Inside her Denver cottage, Gail can be found hunched over her computer wearing 2 pairs of glasses. Great-grandmother of 14 and an active member of multiple communities, her home is a lively hub. When macular degeneration claimed her eyesight, she transitioned to painting with words. A graduate of Denver Lighthouse Writers' Poetry Book Project, her manuscript, Stitches That Seam the World, was longlisted by the 2018 Grayson Books Poetry Contest and was a semifinalist in the 2017 Crab Orchard Poetry Book Award. Her poems have been published in Pulse, Think Journal, 3 Elements, and Global Poemic.
Thank you, Dee.
Will that work for you?
We've been a little worried whether I could get my chin up above the podium. Ooh. Have I cleared the decks here? Wait, how about tiptoes? When I go to a restaurant, I need a telephone booth, a telephone book, but they don't make them anymore. Okay, I'm going to be reading Afternoon on the Pier. Snowy egrets. Okay, Afternoon on the Pier. Snowy egrets forage along the shore, yellow feet paddling in the water, 2, 3 more. One lanky bird flapping his wings and swaying as if plugged into headphones. A dog barks, scuttles away. The ocean slaps against the pier. Heartbeat, blink of time. How much dope did we smoke this afternoon? Sitting close, we breathe each other's breath and tell raunchy jokes. The punchlines have fled. We laugh and laugh. Butterflies swirl and play. Or maybe they're mating and we're voyeurs. I'm a horny butterfly. Also a wingless egret in my gigantic yellow flippers. And you? Who are you with your outsized lime green shades, arthritic knees, and antique eagle head walking cane? You, old man, are my fly in the sky, kooky, cool lover.
Thank you, everyone. Before we move on, and what, do you have the time? Yeah. So in closing, are there any questions or comments or shouts of outrage? Yes? Okay. Everybody's name? You bet. You want to start? Yeah.
Kristen Morgan,
Connie Zumpf,
Susan Freiberg, Shirley Sullivan, Anna Dunlap,
Joy Sawyer, Sue Baker.
Is this for like an FBI file or something? Okay. Any other questions before we close? And thank you so much for coming. We just are so appreciative of your support and of you being here. This was great fun. It was great fun to put this volume together, great fun working with all these poets, and of course, absolutely. I didn't know what this meant. Okay, thank you very much. Have a great evening.